parents holding anxious vigil for those who remain trapped.
作為一個家長，我哋只係有一個心願嘅啫，我哋淨係想佢哋平平安安、齊齊整整咁樣同我哋一齊返屋企。
Well, it's actually pretty interesting, Rick. I mean, it's something that really isn't mentioned too. It's the heat, that it's very hot and humid outside. These protesters, during the weekend, you saw the heavy rain. They did not stop there. So it's been really interesting to experience it firsthand and just seeing what these protesters are actually fighting for. I mean, there are two sides, really. We attended both rallies, which was also interesting at the the pro-police, pro-government rally. The difference is in generations. These are an older crowd, a more conservative crowd, and while the anti-government protesters seem to be more a younger crowd, students really leading these organizations of students leading these protests. But Carrie Lam, after these this weekend's peaceful protests, what they're calling peaceful, because no tear gas released or pepper spray, really. What Carrie Lam, Chief Executive of Hong Kong, has said now is that she's willing and ready to start dialogue, which is something that the public has been asking for quite some time. Take a listen to what she said at the press conference just earlier today. But Rick, the question is, who are they going to sit down with and have these conversations with? Because there is no specific group or leader to the anti-government protests. So really, it remains to be seen who she will have this dialogue with and what groups she will start talking to.
You know, and yet there was something interesting that I hearken back to as you say those words about maybe people coming together and having a conversation. There was a piece of video in your report that you filed yesterday that stayed with me. There was a young protester, obviously an anti-mainland protester, and there was an older gentleman, and the older gentleman was crying, and yet the protester and the guy protesting the protesters were hugging, and the old guy was crying. How much of this very personal struggle between different types of citizens is playing out every day on the streets of Hong Kong?
Oh, very much so, Rick, and you saw that, like you're saying, firsthand. We saw it firsthand. That video, actually, that picture went viral here. So it really goes to show these two camps, these two sides of even within the anti-government protests, the peaceful side and the valiant resistance, which are the ones that are causing a little more noise, the valiant resistance camp. But Sunday, they came together in peace, which is what their main goal was. The other interesting part that I failed to mention is that at the pro-government police support protest, we actually experienced something a little different. We were approached by a couple saying we were fake news, that we were there to cover what we were there to cover was not real. And I even pulled out my mic and asked them, please give us an interview. We're here to tell your story. And they refused to say anything to us on camera. They were threatened because we were heading from there straight to the anti-government protests and had helmets and gas masks with us. And they said that we were there scaring people. So really just the ambiance of these types of protests. There has been violence also at the pro-police protests. A journalist was recently attacked as well. So that's something that we're not seeing everywhere either.
You know, and we're down to about a minute, but it does really beg the question. These protesters went out on the streets because they wanted a certain law changed at the very beginning of all of this. And that law was essentially suspended. It begs the question, doesn't it? And I'm sure you've asked, why are they still protesting? Do they just change the goal line?
Well, it's all within the rhetoric, Rick. What we're really seeing is that for these protesters, the word, what Carrie Lam has been saying is that the bill is dead, the bill is dead. That's not enough. What this means is that the bill technically is still on the table. Without her saying the word withdrawal, complete withdrawal of the bill, that changes everything for them. So along with this and other demands, but, you know, other people are saying, too, that not all demands can and will be met. We're still waiting to hear on trials of the over 700 people who have been arrested. 100 of those could be facing up to 10 years in prison. So what the amnesty will look like, how they'll go about solving these problems, there's a long way. And people are saying things are going to get a lot worse before they get any better, Rick. Great job. Sarah Montes de Oca reporting to us from Hong Kong, and we certainly appreciate the conversation and your fine reporting.
On a footbridge and onto escape vehicles. Protesters sought to evade arrest through increasingly creative ways. According to reports, some even disappeared into manholes. Meanwhile, at the Chinese University of Hong Kong, police seized nearly 4,000 patrol bombs. Protests have brought widespread disruption to schools in Hong Kong. Authorities say primary and secondary schools will resume classes on Wednesday, about a week after they were suspended for safety and transportation reasons. But kindergartens and special needs schools will remain suspended until Sunday.